like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commission would like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. We'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to come to our meeting. I really appreciate the public's involvement in our meetings. I really do. With that being said, I want to start off with administrative business, and we'll do public comment a little later. I want to comment on Commissioner Holland and former Commissioner Bigsby's little news interview with KSHB Channel 41. I don't know how to respond to that, Commissioner Holland. I mean, they wanted to discredit myself, Commissioner Graber, and Mr. Van Perry's. They need to get over it. I won the election. So did Janice Van Perry's, the treasurer. I think on Mr. Van Perry's, the reason we brought him back was for the sales tax project. Two of us feel he was wrongfully terminated. How personnel records leaked to the news, I just can't believe that. But with that being said, I would encourage all of you, not all of you, a few of you to go to the county clerk's office, ask for a Kansas Open Records Act request, and get the contract of the Human Resource Director, Deputy County Counsel, County Counselor, Road and Bridge Superintendent. Read them contracts, come back to us Thursday, and you tell us whether you think them are good contracts. They're 5-year and 3 years. If that's a good use of taxpayer money, I'd like to hear from you. And the conditions of the contract. And while we brought Mr. Van Perry's back to handle the sales tax projects, as soon as that sales tax passed, the previous board went out and bonded money for these projects because of historical low rates. That money was sitting there with the meter running on it, and nothing was getting done. We're talking July of 2015, I think, is when they decided to bond. They probably did it in September of 2015. And we're in 17 before a large portion of that money gets spent. So I'd ask for you to check these things out. And one more thing. We have a township board treasurer, about 10 years ago, wrote a check to pave the road by his house and his mother's house and buy some property my parents owned without township board approval, $14,560 some. He gave it to me because I was a road supervisor. And I turned it in to my boss and said, yeah, the reason he did it is because the township board member resigned and they had a vacancy, so he did it while there was a lack of a full board. And then said, we got to hurry up and get this done before they appoint a new board member. That man is still on the township board. The check was never cashed because he was told he would go to prison if he did. So he's still a township board member. I'd ask you to look at that. It's in my district. It's not hard to figure out. And about the transparency of the Tyson project. Tyson project, if it would have went through all the county's rules and regulations, would have got to planning and zoning. At that time, letters would have been sent out to all the adjoining landowners within 1,000 feet. There would have been a site plan done, there would have been studies done, and the public's involvement would have been then. I think the announcement of it, that it was going to be built in 90 days, was very premature. So, with that being said, I'll take public comment now.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity again. I'll just need 2 minutes. June of 1940, the German army was approaching Paris.
Excuse me, would you mind announcing your name for the record?
Ken Porter, Tonganoxie, Kansas. Thank you. June of 1940, the German army was approaching Paris. As they neared the town of Beauvais, a rural farmer in that area, Pascal Legrand, drove his old farm truck through the dark of night to join the French resistance. When the soldiers saw this ragged farmer, armed only with a pitchfork, they said, "You can't be here. You're a simple farmer. This is too dangerous for you. You must go home. Pascal raised his pitchfork and said, Derrière mon Paris, je fonds pareille position. Behind me lies Paris. I must take a stand. This is what we ask of you, to realize behind you lies Leavenworth County. Behind you lies all of its citizens. Behind you lies the hopes, the dreams, the quality of life. As our elected representatives, you must protect this, you must defend this, and you must act in its best interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Cos, 5037 South 4th Street, Leavenworth, Kansas. This week is a very sad week for Leavenworth County, for Leavenworth City, for the state of Kansas. This week we're going to... Is that any better? That's better. This week we're going to lose a legend that has been part of our community. He's dedicated his life to community service. And of course, by now you all know who I'm talking about, Commissioner Graber. I just want to recognize everything that Mr. Graber has done. And I call him Mr. Graber because Mr. is a sign of respect. And everyone in this community respects Mr. Graber. He has done so much for our community, even when he worked as a bank for Leavenworth National Bank, when he worked as city commissioner, worked state of Kansas, Leavenworth County. We are deeply indebted to you, Mr. Graber, and I just want to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Greg. I know all of us feel that way, except for maybe some of the television crews. I'm just going to let you know they'll be attacking me too, because Commissioner Holland and former Commissioner Bigsby, they just think that's what they need to do. So I just want everybody to know that you'll probably be hearing a bunch of negative things about me, because we've got some bitter commissioners and former commissioners. So. That's,
You got big shoulders, don't you?
oh, I can take it, guys. I can take it. I wouldn't have made it this far if I was dirty. Trust me. They picked me apart when I was running. I still worked here when I was running. Some of the accusations Commissioner Bigsby and Commissioner Holland made about me, oh my gosh. So I'm just letting you know that's what's going to be happening in the future. So.
Cecilia Pruitt, 21800 Parallel Road, Tonganoxie. I actually was not going to talk today. However, on the way in, I received a phone call from a fellow Leavenworth County resident who could not be here due to work and asked me to ask this question for them. They're asking for clarification regarding, I believe this happened back in June, they were reading minutes, but Atmos Energy and Suburban Water. We've all been a little confused about this tax abatement where it's $500,000, but Tyson was talking about the plant being $320. Was part of this money going to go to Atmos Energy and Suburban Water had this went through, and were they going to be paying this back? And is it right that we assumed that they knew that Tyson was coming in and they were planning for Tyson?
On the tax abatements, we're going to offer that to anybody that produces a lot of jobs. That has to go through public hearings. That has to get the city to sign off, the school district sign off, fire or township to sign off. Like I said, everything that was getting done was getting ready for it to go to zoning, to be applied for rezoning. That's when all the letters would have went out to the property owners. A site plan would have been produced. They would have had to say what they're going to do.
So this would have
Just
been
like if you said, I'm going to build a business and you announced it without going to zoning. You would have got a letter saying cease and desist.
But so these people, these companies would have been paying that money back. It was not
On the
Mhm.
utilities.
All right.
That is correct.
And they
Tax
did.
abatement has to go through a feasibility study to make sure that they're going to bring in a lot more taxes with the abatement than prior to it.
All right. And they understood what they were asking money for. They were I want to say in the loop. Is that a proper way to put it?
The,
Atmos Energy, Suburban Water.
I
They
don't
knew
know
they.
about that.
You don't, okay.
I can't answer for them.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank
I'll pass
you.
this on.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Mr. Jones, please come forward.
Bill Jones, 16051, 222nd Street. I come up here today to thank Mr. Graber for his service. I come up here to thank you for coming to our rallies at Tonganoxie. And I come up here to ask you, when you was at Tyson, you mentioned that they were replacing the liner on one of their what they call lagoons. And did you ask why?
Number one, they don't have lagoons. That's your interpretation.
No, you said that, you said in a report, I've read it somewhere, you said that they were
There's
replacing a liner in a lagoon.
That's what it's been said to be. I have got a map on the project that was proposed down at Tonganoxie, and they don't reference it as a lagoon.
Well, I'm really confused, boss.
Okay.
You
do you know what a
said in a
lagoon is?
statement
Do you know
that-
what a lagoon is, first of all?
Do I know?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can you please speak into your microphone?
Do you know what a lagoon is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a lagoon is a body of water that takes waste in, and by having certain chemicals in there, it continues to eat the solids up and makes them go to a liquid form, and the water evaporates into the air. I can actually go get the
Okay.
map and show you.
But I guess what I'm asking you is, in a statement somewhere that I've read or I've heard, you said when you went to the Tyson plant
Yes.
that they were replacing a liner in a lagoon. Is that not true?
No, they would be replacing. They replace him every.
No, you're not answering my question directly, sir. My question is, in a statement, you said that Tyson was replacing a liner in a lagoon. Is that correct?
I suppose it would be. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what you're
Did you
referencing to.
Well, I'm referring, I guess the
Did
bottom
I see
line.
that being done? No.
Okay, then how would you know?
Because I was referencing that every so many years they have to replace, they're not called lagoons for the first thing, because the water.
What are they called?
Water treatment plants. Yeah.
Okay. Did you ask them if they replaced them on time? If they replaced them to the manufacturer's specs? Did you get any of that critical information that you could bring back to us?
I did.
When will that be published or knowledge to us?
Well, I've asked several times. I would like a work session to explain things I've found out down at Tyson, down in Tennessee. So far, there's never been a work session. The only time that I'm allowed to speak on this issue, the crowd is being very disrespectful as I'm talking to you, and I have this lady right here that's just waiting to talk, starts laughing and being disrespectful. So I had 4 women up here at the last meeting, and they were from Tonganoxie, I guess, and they were asking me questions, and I said, well, if you want to sit down after the meeting at this table right here, I'll bring out the map and I'll describe and show you everything that I know.
Can we get that
And-
work session scheduled in?
Yeah, let's do that. Could we?
And
Yes.
I think I have the floor note.
Okay, you have the floor, Commissioner. Just trying to speed it up here.
Yeah, well, anyway.
He's probably got to get to a news conference or something to bash me and Commissioner Bixby, or Commissioner Holland, or Graber, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner, you have the floor.
Being very professional. And
Yeah, neither was your interview with the news crew.
And
That's all right,
what did I say? I
Okay,
said this
kids,
is
let's
going
play
back to
nice.
the good old
Use a
boy.
Monday or a Thursday meeting here to do exactly what you said.
We will.
We can all
We will.
talk about it.
My point exactly.
Okay, my
This man
point,
can't keep his
I
mouth
got the
shut.
floor, I guess, because I walked up to this podium and I really didn't want to. But I wanted to thank Mr. Graber, I wanted to thank Doug Smith, and I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you find out the mill thickness of any of these liners that they put in?
Did I find
You know,
out the
that's
thickness?
some of my questions. Do they replace them on time? I mean, I got an article here I would like all three of you to read about the fertilizer plant in Lawrence, what a mess they have over there, what kind of ground contamination they have over there. It come out of the Topeka Capital Journal. They've been working on it for 7 years. They closed the fertilizer plant down in 2010, and they're still dealing with it. So can we get a work session so that we can get some more information?
I guess that would be up to the chairman.
Mr. Lawfrey could probably get it set up on a work session after one of our regular meetings. Would that be acceptable?
Sure.
And Commissioner Holland, would you like some other or people that went on the trip to be invited to that?
I would.
Okay, and we'll see if we can do that.
So when would we have an answer on that?
Well, it wouldn't be this week. We'll see about, we'll approve the agenda for next week on Thursday. We'll see if we can get that arranged.
For the week after that then?
Well, it'll be next week.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying.
October,
If you approve it Thursday, then it'll be next week.
maybe either Monday or
possibly.
Thursday next week. I would say it'd probably be a week from this Thursday.
Okay. That's
And
fine.
do you think that's a reasonable time, Mark?
Well, I think I'd like to know specifically what it is you want to discuss in that work session so I can make sure I invite the right people. I know right now that the project is not going anywhere.
Right.
So therefore, I would suspect we wouldn't be able to get anybody from Tyson here to answer any questions that anybody might have of them. So this would be a work session to do what specifically? I would just like to.
Base,
I think it's a mute work session now because it's on hold and nothing's going forward. So when I wanted to make clarity on this, I wasn't allowed to. But now that everything's on hold and nothing's going forward, it's mute. Why even have a work session?
Because on hold is not good enough.
Because we're curious about what you found out. You took our money and went down there on a trip and...
I took your money?
No, that may sound wrong. We sent you on a trip, okay? Does that sound more better?
Okay. Well, I think I was doing my due diligence,
Okay.
unlike the other two commissioners. They stuck their head in the
Man,
sand.
you
They
guys
didn't
fight
want,
like redheaded
they didn't want to
stepchildren.
know about it. I went down there to see and ask the questions that been asked in this room about water safety, about the smell.
Then we want you to share it.
And I've done all that. What good does it do to share it now? It's mute. It's on hold. It's not going to go
Because
anywhere.
we want to know. We have the right to know. If,
We're getting off point here.
if they can blow into our town and make a statement like that, out of the clear blue, then we want to know more about Tyson Chicken. Don't you think everybody in this room has been on the internet and found out all kinds of things?
Well, you know, you can get on the internet You can find about anything you want.
Yes.
But the internet is not the Bible.
That-
Everybody thinks it is.
Let's
You had
not
a
mix
bu-
the
But
two
it's-
up, please. That's not.
See,
polite.
I'm not talking to you, sir.
Anyway,
All right.
I would like to have a work session to find out what you knew, what you found
If
out.
we, we'll discuss, if we'll have a work.
If I gave you this piece of paper, would you read this?
That's the only paper I didn't read. I didn't get the Topeka paper this weekend. I usually do.
Well, it's got to do, it don't have nothing to do with Tyson. It's got
Alright.
to do with how the fertilizer plant polluted the ground.
Okay.
And
What
that-
day is it? I can just look it up on the internet. Is it Topeka Capital?
Yes.
All right.
September 17th, 2017.
September
Sunday.
17th?
Sunday, September 17th.
Okay. I'll look it up on the internet.
Thank
And Topeka Capital?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. I can take a few more and then we got to get back. We got quite a bit to do today. Yes, sir?
Curtis Road, 105 South Village. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Clyde, for your service. Second of all, last Monday night, Tonganoxie City Council had a meeting, which most of these people expressed their feelings of Tyson, which is not very positive. So during that meeting, there was a lot of heart-wrenching things that happened in Tonganoxie. Just want to know for the record that 4 out of the 5 city council peoples decided that they do not want Tyson in their community. So just so you guys know that we feel that the city of Tonganoxie was the carrot being dangled out here for Tyson to come in and make this preliminary show, and then they go out the back door and we're sitting there holding the bag, not knowing what's going on here. So to me, that's disrespectful on the behalf of of Tyson and so forth like that, because I feel like we've taken the brunt. Well, I know I have, but we have taken the brunt, and I'm sure you have too, Doug, with so forth like that. So, but that being said, we need to take a stand together, whether it's county or city, and you guys actually have done that by pulling the bonds. But I can tell you right now, as my personal view, and 4 of them on the city council, we don't want them in Tonganoxie, Kansas. And I hope this doesn't affect our partnership together on that business park out there, because we want other businesses to come in. So that being said, and on the record for these people here, there was a lot of attacks that happened through Tyson and so forth like that. Just please get your facts and figures straight before you put it on Facebook media and so forth like that, because there's other businesses that want to come to Tonganoxie, and we do not want to scare them off and attack them. So we want that tax revenue to come to Tonganoxie and help each and every one of you on our infrastructure and everything like that. So please do your homework before we put it on Facebook. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Take one more and then we got to get on to our regular agenda items.
Cecilia Pruitt again. Just to clarify, whether you've referred to something as a wastewater treatment or a lagoon, it is basically the same thing. I'd like for you, Mr. Holland, to refer to the CDC. I'm not talking about junk information off of the internet. I'm talking about our own CDC and the information they've put out. And I know I brought that information in. Those wastewater treatments have to be periodically emptied. Everything does not dissolve out of it. Periodically, sludge has to be cleaned out of it.
Every 10 years.
Yes, that sludge and those wastewaters contain all the pathogens, all the chemicals that the animals have inside of them. So putting a liner in a wastewater treatment does not protect our water. Does it help a small bit? Probably so. It does. It's not like a sewage treatment for human waste. Those lagoons or wastewater treatments, per the CDC, can be emptied in one of 3 ways. It can be emptied out and stored in an underground tank. Now, I do, before I go through these three ways, I want to remind everybody that when the chicks, the food, the chickens, they all belong to Tyson. The waste product belongs to the farmer. So anything done with this waste product comes at the expense of the farmer. So going back to this, there are three ways to get rid of this wastewater. Number one is to store it in underground tanks. Obviously, we can't do that forever. There's a limited amount of space, and underground tanks do leak. Number two, it can be loaded up in a large truck and carried to another part of the country if you have someone else that wants it. And number three, the most common way is this liquid is sprayed on the ground as fertilizer. I'm an old farm girl. I can tell you animal manure makes a wonderful fertilizer. When you have grass-fed calves and cows, their manure is wonderful. But we are talking about animals that are fed some unknown substance. I don't know what it is, but there's been something in this animal that has been changed so that this animal matures and grows in 5 weeks, as opposed to the regular little home chickens that I know took 4 months. So I just want some clarification out there. If I laughed when you called that, I'm sorry, but you know, if it quacks like a duck, if it sounds, what's the old saying? If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So we can call these wastewater treatments, but they're lagoons. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close with that and get on to our regular agenda items. But like I said, I just encourage a couple of you to go down and get them employee contracts, read them, come back to us and give us your thoughts on that. And also to investigate what township board trustee did that 10 years ago. And he's still on the board. Thank you. Have commissioners had a chance to look at the minutes?
I have, Mr. Chairman. I move approval.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 And we don't have any OCBs. We have approval of property acquisition.
Motion.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of this commission. For the purpose of, I think that's the cheeriest thing we may hear all day.
I hope so.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I've had negotiations with the owners of property 305 Walnut, nothing to do with Tyson. Regarding the acquisition of real property, I have reached a tentative negotiation and position on that, and I would ask the board to ratify it. I have made an offer on your behalf to the property owner for the amount of $44,897. That is roughly the listing price. I would note that over the years, this property sold in 2001 and 1992 for $74,925. It sold again in 1993 for $17,000. Its most recent sale in 1998 was $39,000. Asking price was roughly $44,800. The offer I have made would be, again, that purchase price. It is up to you to ratify the purchase of that property. That property is located across the street. I will state it's the intention of the board, my understanding would be to purchase the property while it is unoccupied. It is unoccupied. I have done a walkthrough of the property with the realtor and the public works crew. It would require substantial renovations to bring it up to any city codes. Obviously, this courthouse, building built in 1877, reconstructed in 1911, there's no, well, at some point in the near future will no longer be adequate for all of your office space needs. I think the intention is to utilize that space either for parking or at some point in the future to allow either this commissioner or prior or future commissioners to determine how to use it for public good. But again, the price of it has varied over the years. I would recommend or request that the board ratify the purchase of that property.
Okay. And we do own the lot that joins it.
Yes, we do.
So we already...
You own the lot immediately to the east of that property.
Okay.
When we
Is there
bought
going-
that, the idea was ultimately make a parking situation out of it.
The initial goal was to relieve at that time parking. When you did the demolition of the jail, you made that parking space, that it relieved it to some point. That space will be needed. I think it's projected it would fit into the county's plan. And again, I would suggest now might be an ideal time to buy it. It is unoccupied. If the county were to purchase it and try to renovate it, it would require substantial renovations. I think it may not be attractive to other investors, but it certainly, I would suggest to you, Commissioners, it certainly may be attractive to the county.
Okay.
I move approval of the purchase of the property.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Becky, if you could make sure the minutes reflect that's 305 Walnut for a purchase price $44,897. Gentlemen, I'll try to effect the closing on that as soon as possible. I do wish it's been ratified. We will need to apply to the city for a demolition permit, as all structures within 300 feet of this building qualify for historic preservation consideration. We've obtained that permission in the past. I'll undertake the necessary steps.
Okay. All right. Thanks for negotiating this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We're ready for Trevor.
Morning, Commissioners. It was about 2 weeks ago, we interviewed prospective contractors for remodeling the EMS station number 2 there in Tongi, doing a design build on that. Based on those interviews, we would like to start negotiating a price with Brunson Builders for this remodel.
Any questions, Commissioners, on this?
Now, this is the older EMS building that we've now replaced.
Right, the one we've put off for so many years, doing the parking lot and it is a local contractor. It's going to do a design build, so. And the time frame is kind of critical, the time of the year it is, and what the current use of the building is with the EMS housing, ambulance and stuff, so they got to get in there and attack it, so.
This will all be put out for bid.
We solicited contractors that would be interested in design build. They submitted their qualifications back to us. That was all submitted in the newspaper and done. And then we selected 3 contractors out of those to interview. Commissioner Smith was there, Mr. Miller was there, and I was there. Out of those 3 contractors, we decided that Brunson Builders had the best game plan going forward for this design build. So we would like to negotiate a price in with them for this design build.
Like I said, this building houses the workers, or 24-hour shifts, housing ambulance. We're getting ready to come into winter and can't have it all opened up. But
Well,
they can meet the time frame that Mr. Miller would like to meet.
I would move we authorize moving forward, getting bids from Brunson Brothers Builders for the remodeling of EMS Station 2.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We got the planning and zoning. Before we get started on that, I just got an off-the-wall question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I read in Oskaloosa paper, Jefferson County put a moratorium on confined animal buildings for confined animals.
Correct. We did get the resolution on that, and it looks like they're trying to come up with some definitions, define some terms. They were a little worried about all these chicken farms, popping up here and there, so that's why they wanted to define some terms.
Is that, wouldn't be fall under the agriculture exemption?
Correct. According to the state statute, there are some limitations to that.
Okay. So what they're doing is just putting a moratorium, not going to issue any building permits until they get some...
Until they clear some of the things.
Okay, is that something Leavenworth County needs to look into for future?
We can definitely look into that.
Okay. And you said you have their resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the response they received back from the state on that resolution was not favorable.
Correct. I don't
Okay.
think the county has limited authority to.
Well, that's what I was wondering about agriculture, if we had limits on that portion of it. I mean, I know we don't on when you have to rezone agriculture for industrial, but.
I think the letter from the state specifically said that their resolution was not enforceable.
Okay. All right. Well, can you
So,
keep us posted on
we
any
can-
action on that? So okay. All right. Sorry to interrupt on what you were here for.
So we're here before you today to ask for approval to award a bid for one pickup truck to Henry Martin Chevrolet. They were the lowest bidder. We're replacing our 2007 Ford Ranger.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
We're getting rid of one, aren't we?
Right.
Getting rid of one, it's starting to need some costly repairs.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 I'm glad it's a local dealership. I hate going out of town.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have an assistant planner position that's vacant currently, and I'm requesting that we hire a full-time planner position instead of the assistant planner. The reason for that is we used to have a planner position, and then it was downgraded to an assistant planner due to cost cutting. So right now our workload is pretty high, so I would like to bring that position back.
Okay.
And the cost associated with that is approximately like $7,000 more than what the assistant planner was getting paid.
Are you seeing an influx of plats now? Or,
Yes, workload, yeah, has
also
increased.
the boundary adjustments?
Correct, and also we are getting ready to do the land use study for the County Road 1 project, and that'll take a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah. Any commissioners have any questions on that?
Motion to approve.
You have funds in your budget to cover that?
No, sir, I am short like $7,000.
Second.
I guess, where are we going to make up the money from? Fees?
Well, we can review it at the end. I mean, it's for next year where he'll see.
Right,
that.
that's what I'm saying, for 18.
So we can review it towards the end of next year and see where he's at budgetarily. I mean, a lot of times due to attrition or other expenditures that come in below what was budgeted, it doesn't require an amendment. If it does, the clerk and I would work on any amendment that would be necessary.
You think you'll have any trouble getting somebody for what we pay?
We're gonna try. Last time we had some trouble, but
That's
hopefully,
what I thought.
yeah, we're sending
That's
we're sending the applications to all the universities and see if we can get.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready for the emergency funding request. Who would be doing? Oh,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
My name is Kelly Meyer. I am the Executive Director of the First Judicial District CASA Association. With me is Alyssa Blyden and Chelsea Malcolm. They are current staff of the current Child Advocacy Center that operates out of Leavenworth County and serves children in Leavenworth County. The purpose of our attendance today is for an emergency funding request specific to services for the Child Advocacy Center. Currently, the CAC is what it's referred to, is under the umbrella of the Alliance Against Family Violence. They will be closing on Friday, 4 o'clock.
Is it coming through the speaker? You guys can't hear? Is the microphone on? Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello? So on Friday, the CAC will be closing that is currently under the umbrella of the Alliance Against Family Violence. Our office, our organization, CASA, has been contacted by the state CAC Association and has requested that we take over and open a program to provide services to children in our community that need the services the CAC offer. Our board has looked at this and they have voted unanimously to support us opening a center and providing this service. The mission of the CAC is very similar and runs very parallel to exactly what we do, providing services to children that are abused and neglected in our community. Last year, the CAC served over 100 children, and so as the director of your CASA program, what I'm trying to convey to you is that there is a huge need for this in our community. There are children that require this service, and we just cannot let this go. And so what I have done is I've requested emergency funding so that we can open the doors back up and provide those services through the end of the year. And I hate to do this. I never want to be in a situation where we have to ask for emergency funding. But I have a test that I put everything through. The first is, would it be something I would want for my children? I have a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old little girl, and I couldn't imagine a community where my children would not have services if they needed it. The second test is this going to serve more kids better? And I can't see that either of those things would not be answered in a way that would mean we need to do this. So that is why I ask for your support.
So, to get it clear, you're not going to be under the family violence group anymore?
That is correct. That program is
Closing
dissolving.
Friday. Okay.
They are closing Friday. And then our request that we provided, it essentially, there's two different parts. So I provided one that would essentially fund the program opening on the 15th. So we would have 14 days, where services would not be provided while we were getting things in place and ready to open the doors back again. The other request or proposal is for opening November 1st, which would put us one full month without services in the community.
Will there be any funding coming forward from the Alliance?
Out of their budget, yeah.
Out of their budgeted?
I have requested that the Alliance Against Family Violence proportion the amount that they were approved from the county, proportional to what they had included in their budget for services at the CAC.
That's what I thought, that they should have some funding.
They responded and indicated they were not willing to do so.
Ooh, well, that's probably why this county approved that amount of money.
That's right.
To cover everything. Now, if you're going to stop providing half the services here,
maybe
some of that funding probably should not stay. I mean,
maybe we ought to relook
absolutely
the budget before we sign off on it by the end of the year.
I mean, this board supports your organization, don't get me wrong, but like I said, we funded family violence to also fund you.
Yeah.
But we're going to do whatever we got to do to keep you going here. I don't like the 30 days without it. I think the sooner the better. So
I have talked with Janet Kosinski, and she has found funding for the $9,000.
Okay. And then how are we going to do 18?
Well,
I think we can, let's address this one so they can continue to
absolutely.
operate. Right,
we need to get back in operation as soon as possible.
We'll definitely bring up the other items.
You're not going to put that on me.
I think what I've asked of Kelly is to come forward with the amount that she would need for 18 and to talk to our county clerk, Janet Kosinski, and we can maybe work out some kind of funding process. And that's where I left it, and have it come to the board.
All right. Well, let's get the. Anybody prepared to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve
the $9,000.
I'll second it. What my concern is next year.
Right. That's why I've
And I
told
wanted
Kelly.
understood that we're doing this now to complete this year, and we're going to have to, Janet, I think, struggle to find the funding for next year.
Well, we're going to have Kelly come back before next year, and we're going to look at some different resources that she has available and resources that the county will have available. That's why today we just wanted to take care of the emergency funding to give us a little more time and Kelly a little more time to look at resources that will be necessary for the 2018 budget.
Okay.
As long as everyone understands we're doing this for the balance of this year, and we're not committing next year until we have an opportunity to review, look, see where the funding.
I think we already committed next year when we approved the family violence budget.
Well, I agree with Doug.
We've approved the budget, we haven't approved the expenditures. And
Right, so we could go
it's a
back and look
commitment
at that
that before
expenditure.
January 1, we can revisit that. And
Yeah.
we will.
All right,
We'll have
because
to
that's
Oh, we
kind of
have
the way
to
I
get it.
figured the budget.
But we have to get it done before January 1.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get this knocked out today. We have a motion, and a second, voting.
Aye.
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 I hope you can get going in 2 weeks.
I
Well-
promise you we will. Thank you.
Another thing is, we don't know what we don't know as
Right.
far as the funding for next year. And so that gives her time to work on that issue too. And she
But
can
like I
work,
said, I mean,
she can work with
we
Janet.
approved that budget for that organization based on that, you being together. I'm hoping we can get this worked out. But anyway, thanks for coming today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting children. I thank you.
All right. We have Mr. Mars on delinquent taxes.
Morning, Commissioners. Roger Mars, active deputy county council. Asked to have this item on the agenda. It's actually two parcels that were previously offered for sale in two previous tax sale proceedings. First item involves a parcel down in the city of Baser, and that was its own tax sale proceeding. City Administrator Lloyd Martley is here also. If the board has questions, but essentially the city has offered to purchase this property. The property is currently used for agricultural purposes. It was originally part of the Baser Town Center project. Developer, I understand, went out of business or something. There were substantial amounts of public improvements made on that property, and there's special assessments on it that have not been paid. I checked before coming up. The current delinquent tax on the property is over $867,000, but only about $1,000 a year is ad valorem taxes for previous years, and our judgment was for 2012 through 2015. So there's about $130,000 a year of special assessments imposed by the city of Baser on this parcel. What the city was at the public
We're having
auction.
trouble hearing back here, Roger.
If that's on or not, I can use that speaker.
It's on. I think it's on, but it's just not picking it up right now.
Is it coming through the speaker back here, Mr. Motley? It's not. It is?
Okay. The city of Baser was at the auction when it was the sheriff's sale auction took place. They could have bid on it then. They chose not to. No other bidders were present, and no offers have been, made on the properties. A unique situation where, because of the special, the burden on the property from the specials, take a developer probably to want to come in and purchase it. So what I suggested to the city was that they essentially try to cover the general ad valorem taxes in their offer, and because anything over and above that would just go back to the city anyway.
Okay.
So that's
on the special assessments. How does that work?
Well, the city of Baser's been paying those.
That's what I'm saying.
They
The
have-
city's paying the special assessments anyway.
That's what I wanted to ask, if the city was paying the special assessments.
I think they have a bond that they're obligated to pay on. I
Right.
believe they actually had to increase the mill levy either last year or this year to help cover those bond payments because the specials weren't being paid by.
I guess I should say the citizens of Baser are paying
The
this.
city, yes. So they've offered to acquire, they've expressed interest to acquire the property, essentially try to cover the the ad valorem taxes as part of the judgment. They're entitled to collection on their an apportionment of the specials, but as part of the agreement that I've discussed with them, they would waive any apportionment of these funds towards their special assessments.
So would the city take this off the tax rolls while they own it and try to offer incentives to a business or something?
They might be eligible for some type of an exemption. I haven't discussed that with them, and it might be something that they would
Well, I mean,
seek
it's not
down the
gonna-
road.
I guess I should be asking the city. You're not gonna like make it a park or something, are you? Are you gonna try to get it back on the tax rolls?
I'm Lloyd Martley, the Chief of Police and City Administrator for the City of Basehor. As Roger Marr said, the back taxes on this property is over $800,000. We've done everything that we could do to reach out to the property owner. He's indicated to us that he has no intentions of paying those taxes, which the majority of it is special assessments, about $131,000 a year. It's the city's desire to take that 73 acres, incentivize it, do whatever we might want to do with it, with a developer or some other local group trying to come in and continue with that development plan that was originally designed for the Basehor Town Center area. We don't have any intentions of making it a park or anything like that. Now, if a developer were to buy it and want to make it into a park, that would be fine too. But it is our goal to actually take control of it and use it for development purposes and try and get it off the tax rolls as much as we can, because as Roger said, we had to raise bond and interest mill levy 2.5 points last year to cover bond and indebted interest on it. So we're trying to just buy it back for what the taxing entities are due at this particular point in time, and the city will continue to pay the $131,000 assessment until we can do something with it.
Would this impact your plans for your town's city buildings that were to be built in that area?
Will it impact that area?
Yes.
No, there's a development plan that's already designed for that specific area
Okay.
with single-family residents in that particular area. And we're just hoping that a developer will come in and want to take that entire project over, and then we can use this 73 acres as a possible incentive because of the assessments and everything attached to it. And the back taxes. If a developer was to buy it now, he'd be required to pay that $800,000 in back taxes.
And you're
which
not
is the
going to get
reason-
anybody to do that?
Yeah, that's the reason it's not appealing to anybody. When we did the tax sale a year or so ago and nobody bid on it, was because there was at that time about $700,000 owed on it.
Well, it's a nice piece of property. I mean, I don't think you're gonna have any trouble developing it, but like I said, it just got that tax lien on it.
Well, there's tax liens on that. I mean, there's assessments on that entire 240 acres in there, and everybody's paying their assessments except for this one landowner.
Yeah, pretty good chunk of land though.
It is.
But anyways, so are you looking for a motion?
I would recommend the board approve this sale, and would ask the board for a motion authorizing me to proceed with the post-tax sale purchase of this property. The process is, it has to get court approval if the board authorizes to go forward with the sale. So,
Okay.
So moved.
He was answered my question. I was going to ask, how in the world do you get it off the tax rolls?
Right.
So you've got to go into court to do it.
Right.
the court, that's a published hearing date. Then the court confirms the sale, then a sheriff's deed is issued to the city of Basehor.
Before we, and how many years did it take to get to this point?
Sorry?
How many years did it take to get to this point?
Well, we have to wait 3 years before we can do anything.
The delinquency started in 2012, and I conducted the initial
I'm sure glad everybody
proceeding.
doesn't pay their taxes like that. We'd have all kinds of problems.
I conducted the
Would be
initial
a
proceeding
business.
last year, as quickly as I could.
Okay, well, we need to kind of get this going.
I made the motion to approve.
Chairman, I'll second it, but there appears to be someone that wants to speak. I'm not sure.
I think he's just trying to hear.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so you second that?
Yes.
All right, voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
The second parcel is a vacant lot in the city of Leavenworth. It's a parcel that has been offered in many prior tax sales. It was offered again last year. No bids were made on the parcel. It is a parcel that has a lot of nuisance abatements on it because of city mowing liens. And so Mr. Haas has offered to purchase the parcel for $100. That's usually what we offer those parcels at the tax sale. He has already been in contact with the city to negotiate some reduction in the special assessments that aren't part of the judgment. It's 2016, 2017. So I would ask the board to approve this sale also. Would get the property back into the hands of the taxpayer that's interested in using the property and paying the taxes.
Any questions, Commissioners? Roger, on this one?
No.
Very simple. Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Thank you. And Chairman, if you could just sign the copy of the ones that were attached to the RBA and
Okay.
the court proceeding.
We have any other business, Mark, for us at this time?
I don't have anything else at this time.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for paying their taxes on time. Yes, sir.
One question regarding tax sale. That's an incredible amount of money owned by what appears to be a pretty belligerent developer. Is there a statute in the state of Kansas and/or Leavenworth County whereby a future lien can be made on future profits and projects of this same developer in a way to recover some of that?
Most of these developers are pretty savvy and they create LLCs
Of course.
that are for that specific property. So when they walk away or go bankrupt, it's just on that property.
And probably at the
If
time.
if it was under a larger corporation and they didn't handle it that way, then obviously we would go back.
The reason I ask this is we face this in Colorado all the time with the expansion of the ski areas. And they buy these vast ranch properties, run up horrendous $1 million, $2 million tax bills, and then decide, we're going to raise cattle. Let's go somewhere else. So I just wonder if there's a method of recovery here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure when this was all done and all the special assessments were put on, it was before the recession and, you know, things were going good. And I don't know if anybody can put bonds in place or anything on these, but it's just one of them things. It's probably just a victim of the recession. But it is a very remarkable piece of property. I mean, the Bayshore area is, you can't stop it. You couldn't stop growth in Bayshore if you tried, you know. So I think it'll come out all right on it, you know, now it gets in the hands where it needs to be. It's just when somebody owns it and they're not willing to sell it or anything, and they can't sell it because of that large tax lien. I mean, the taxes probably are just about worth what the property is. So, but anyways, so we'll watch this one and see how this one turns out. But I think it'll turn out positive. So, anyways, motion to adjourn, commissioners.
So moved.
Second, voting. Aye.
Aye.